Why do narcissists need attention, admiration, and validation? So, narcissists need attention, admiration, and validation to sustain their fragile sense of self esteem and self worth. This is because the entire disorder of narcissism, pathological narcissism, is born out of shame, dysfunctional shame. And when we are talking about shame as an emotion, understand that shame is linked to one self esteem. And when we are talking about pathological narcissists, understand that pathological narcissists have pathologically low self esteem. You'll hear me describe this as self esteem so low that they would probably have to look up to see it. This means that it is little to non existent. This is because if we go down memory lane, we will see where narcissists abandoned their true selves in childhood. They abandoned their true spirits in childhood for a false self, that which you call the ego or the mask. So today you are dealing with an ego maniac. They have an overinflated ego, and this is why they need excessive amounts of attention, admiration, and validation. So narcissists have not truly been working on their true selves, their true spirits. They abandoned their true selves in childhood. What they did was they diverted all of that energy into developing their ego. So you are dealing with someone that is wired backwards. At a consciousness level, understand that pathological narcissists are rooted in their shame and they're unable to move past their pride. And you have to let go of a lower emotion to be able to get to a higher emotion. So they cannot let go of their pride. So pride comes before the fall and they fall right back down to shame. And they have been in this shame pride cycle since their childhood years. So every day a narcissist wakes up, they're in shame. They're in the first dimension. They are in a self-loathing state. And understand that the shame, the pathological shame that we're talking about here is deep-seated. It is deeply rooted. So here is an analogy so that you can have a very good understanding of this pathological shame. Understand that pathological narcissists have a thorn that is in the middle of their back, the shame thorn. And because it is in the middle of their back, they are unable to reach it. And they are in immense pain. So what normally happens is you, the empathetic person, the loving person, the kind person, you will see that they are in pain and you are able to see the thorn. So you want to help them to remove this thorn. But for the narcissist, they have been in pain for such a long time. They actually don't want you to irritate the thorn. So they will not accept your help. And because they will not accept your help, well, the thorn remains. And they remain in pain. They actually believe in their mind that if you help them, you are going to manipulate them. You are going to hurt them even more. So again, they remain with this shame thorn in the middle of their back, and the pain gets worse because pathological narcissism is regressive. So at a consciousness level, they are rooted in their shame and they're unable to move past their pride. So understand that this pride is also dysfunctional. This is where their grandiosity and their false sense of superiority comes from. So understand that this pride is not healthy pride, like taking pride in your work, like confidence. It is the opposite. It is their grandiosity and their false sense of superiority. So they believe that they are better than other people. And understand that if someone believes that they are perfect, then there is no need to change. They are perfect. Hence, they are done growing. And again, pride comes before the fall and they fall right back down to shame. And this is the cycle that pathological narcissists have been in since their developmental years. So understand that these individuals have a deep-seated insecurity and a distorted view of themselves, often oscillating between feelings of grandiosity and worthlessness. So understand that the feelings of grandiosity comes from their dysfunctional pride. And the feelings of worthlessness comes from their shame because they are rooted in their shame and unable to move past their pride. So to cope with this inner turmoil, they rely on external sources to validate their self-image and inflate their ego because again they are predominantly their ego. Today they are 95% ego and 5% spirit when they should be 95% spirit and 5% ego. They are wired backwards. So you have to boost the narcissist ego. So here is why narcissists crave attention, admiration, and validation. Number one, validation of self-worth. Narcissists have an exaggerated sense of entitlement and believe they are superior to others. They seek constant validation from others to reaffirm their belief in their specialness and superiority. Number two, an ego boost. Attention, admiration, and validation serves as fuel for the narcissist's ego. They thrive on praise and admiration, which temporarily alleviates their feelings of inadequacy and vulnerability. Number three, emotional regulation. Narcissists use attention and validation as a means of regulating their emotions. Positive feedback and admiration provides a temporary high and distract them from their inner insecurities and self-doubt. Number four, externalization of self-worth. Remember that pathological narcissists today are predominantly their ego. They are predominantly the mask. They are predominantly their false self because they abandoned their true self. So due to this shallow sense of self, narcissists rely heavily on external sources to define their self-worth. They gauge their value based on the attention and admiration they receive from others rather than internal factors. So understand that you need a true self to have self-esteem, and pathological narcissists abandon this true self for an ego, a false self. And the ego has to be validated from the external world. Number five, manipulative tactics. Narcissists use attention-seeking behavior to manipulate and control others. By garnering attention and admiration, they can influence and exploit those around them to meet their needs and fulfill their agendas. Overall, attention, admiration, and validation serve as essential components in the narcissist's quest to maintain their inflated self-image and feed their insatiable ego. However, their constant craving for external validation often leads to unhealthy and manipulative behaviors in relationships. Understand that the ego has an insatiable desire to be fed, and the ego cannot feed itself, so the ego has to be fed from the outside. And this is why narcissists need narcissistic supply, the attention, admiration, and validation that they get from other people. So now they are relying on other esteem because they have little to no self-esteem. Again, pathological narcissists are rooted in their shame. They have pathological shame. Self-esteem so low that they would probably have to look up to see it. And they do not want to let go of the ego. They do not want to let go of the false self because today they believe that they are the false self because they are wired backwards. And you will see where when you question them, they'll have a narcissistic injury. And what is a narcissistic injury? A narcissistic injury is when a pathological narcissist perceives a threat, whether real or imagined, that goes against their grandiose false self, that goes against the ego, that goes against the mask. So understand that the individual that you're dealing with today does not want to take their mask off. Jim Carrey, that plays Stanley Ipkiss in The Mask, does not want to take the mask off. He believes that he is the green mask. That is the level of delusion that you are dealing with if you are entangled with a pathological narcissist. You are dealing with someone that is regressing. You are dealing with someone with severe psychological problems because their entire personality is disordered. The entire psyche is disordered. The entire soul is dark. This means that you are dealing with someone with severe mental problems because they are losing their minds. You are dealing with people that are emotionally immature. So they have emotional problems because, again, they're based in shame and they cannot move past their pride. Dysfunctional pride is the most positive emotion that a pathological narcissist can feel. So they do not have access to courage. They do not have access to love. They do not have access to joy. They do not have access to empathy. And when we're talking about the will, then they have an underdeveloped will. This is why they are so impulsive and compulsive, because they have not been working on themselves. They have been working on their false self. And at the core of this, all of this stems from the fact that these individuals started to dissociate from their true selves, their true spirits in childhood. Instead, they identified with the ego. They identified with the mask. And understand that an ego is a mind-made construct. It is the figment of a child's imagination now existing inside of an adult's body. We are not our ego. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And we have access to tools, namely our mind power, our willpower, and our emotions. But when we are talking about pathological narcissists, at their severe level of psycho-spiritual arrested development, pathological narcissists believe that they are their ego. And if someone believes that they are the ego, then they believe that they are the mind. And if someone believes that they are their mind, then they are losing their mind. And not only are they losing their minds, the entire psyche is disordered. The entire personality is disordered. The entire soul is dark because they have mental, emotional, and problems with their will. And again, at the core, it is because they are dark inside. Because they abandoned their inner light, they abandoned spirit. And we are here to spiritually awaken, but pathological narcissists cannot spiritually awaken because they abandoned spirit. For more information on pathological narcissism and how you can adequately protect yourself from these dysfunctional individuals, ensure that you are liking these videos. Ensure that you are subscribed for more empowering content. If you have any questions or feedback, go ahead and leave that in the comment section. Shiga is the name. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.